Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for showing up for tonight's legislative meeting of the Rensselaer County Legislature. We will begin this evening's duties with presentations of portions of our meetings from last month, where we'll be showing our respect and our concern for those resolutions of individuals that resolutions we passed last month, I should say. The first resolution up is P16919, resolution adjourning the April 9th, 2019 Rensselaer County Legislative Meeting in memory of Paul S. Puccio. And that's with presentation by Legislator Peter and Loveridge. Anyone else who would like to come up with them? And you might want to invite the family down.
Any members of the family?
Yeah. Any members of
the family or school board that would like to come down? So, oh, you came over this side. I serve on the school board with Mr. Romacek, and I talked to him briefly before about what I wanted to say here tonight in regards to Mr. Puccio. And I ran for school board 2 years ago, and I consider myself, I feel older than I am, but I understand I'm a younger guy. And when you do this and you run, you think, boy, I got ideas and I got notions of how things could be done, and there's been guys on that board that have been there a long time and they could use a change. And then you get on that board and you run into a guy like Paul Puccio and you understand, boy, I know nothing. And the depth of knowledge that he had, the insight, the vision he had as a school board member is an inspiration to myself. I'm sure many of our other school board members miss his presence on the board. There's a resolution here, and I won't bother reading it all because it won't justifully suffice what he accomplished in life. But the one note I will read: Paul was dedicated to serving his community, and as a young father, he was elected to Schodack Central School Board in 1981 and served that organization for 38 consecutive years. That commitment to our school, to the greater educational community as a whole, there's a reason why people from around the state looked to him, sought his input, sought his guidance, why when we have Tech Valley High School, he served on that board, he helped get that school off the ground and running, and I can only imagine it's a fitting memorial to him, the improvements that our school has undergone with that latest construction project. His fingerprints are all over that building. And for generations to come, kids in our district are going to learn in a building that Mr. Puccio had such input on making. I can't think of a better memorial to his service to our town, our community, and I want to express my gratitude and my thanks for the ability to get to work with him, to get to know him a little bit, and we miss him greatly. Thank you very much. I have some copies of the resolution. And on behalf of the family, I will present a framed copy of the resolution to Mr. Romacek for display in our school. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Would you like to say anything?
You want to say something, Donna? No, not really.
Would you like to say anything?
Thank you.
I'll say something. Thank you, first of all, on behalf of my family and for this award or this memorial. It's very nice. I also want to thank all of you for I talked to him about fishing. I'm not sure if he really could talk to me about, school board stuff, so I think it was nice for him to have that kind of outlet, like I said. And so I thank you for that, and finally, I do want to say that he believed in government, so everyone else should too. Thank you.
So I think for us, Paul was the epitome of what we should all be as civil servants, as service. And we do this as a service for the public, and every day Paul reminded me of that. And I appreciate all of his time and efforts and relentless straightening me and keeping me on the path. Thank you.
These are right here. Yeah, Paul dedicated himself to his community in many different aspects, and when there were issues that needed to be addressed, he'd be right there. Very dedicated to his community and to all the people in his neighborhood. So he was a great guy.
He loved a good banter.
Thank you. Thank
See, we have
you.
one joke.
One joke.
We have one joke. One joke.
Oh, she gonna say something?
This joke goes way back. Paul was verbal from 2 years old. He's under 3. And I was going down to my mother's. I usually took the carriage along in case he got tired. We'd walk 2 miles. And we took the bus one time. So we are the only 2 on the bus. He's under 3 years old, about 2.5. And a black man gets on the bus. And he goes, "Mommy, look at the chocolate man." You wouldn't say that today, but he said it so lovingly that it was so cute. Look at the chocolate man. And I thought that was cute. He was verbal always.
It's very sweet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Bob, for that, and the Puccio family and the board. And I know your comments were well mentioned and in good taste. With that, the next resolution is P-172, a resolution commending James J. Corcoran for his outstanding dedication to the City of Rensselaer Fire Department, presented by myself. And I would ask Jay to come down, and any and all members of the Rensselaer County Fire Department, chiefs and associates, who might like to assist him down here. Or maybe say something. Come on down, guys and gals, any way that you can get down here. Just don't bring a ladder or a pipe hoe or anything like that. How you doing, Jay? Always a pleasure. Some of you guys can come over on the other side if you'd like. I don't want you to have to go all the way to the restroom. All righty. I'm going to read this resolution for the most part. There's a few things I will skip, but you know, I've been a fireman in the city of Rensselaer since 1971, and there's one person that I always believed knew more than anybody else in the fire department when I even first got down there, and it was Jay. He was not only a mentor to people in the fire department as a whole, especially in the volunteer system back then, but he was somebody who was willing to share any information that he had with everybody in the department to ensure that their safety and their actions were meaningful and they were well protected in everything that they did. I'll go in with some of the resolution here. Whereas James Corcoran is an individual who is truly dedicated to the health and safety and welfare of the residents of his community and has provided outstanding service to those who have been in dire need, thus contributing to the welfare of the entire city of Rensselaer and Rensselaer County. And whereas in 1981, 2007, Jay served as Assistant Fire Chief, Operation Chief overseeing emergency response crews during emergency responses within the city of Rensselaer, as well as coordinating mutual aid companies in responding areas. And whereas from August 2010, March 2019, Jay again served as Assistant Fire Chief, Operating Chief, and whereas Jay was appointed Acting Chief of the Rensselaer Fire Department 7 times during his 34-year career. They just wouldn't let you go, Jay. They just wouldn't let you go. Just kept on coming back. 34-year career earning the rank of the longest tenured chief within the city of Rensselaer Fire Department. Whereas Jay was employed by BASF Corporation, where he was the fire inspector from 1973 to 1986, overseeing hot work permits, confined space entry, inspecting work sites, and maintaining firefighting equipment and fire trucks. From 1986 to 1996, Jay was the emergency responder coordinator, coordinating all phases of emergency responses to the site. OSHA training pertaining to hazardous materials and fire brigade training and duties, and served as chief for the fires on the plant emergencies, including chemical spills. And whereas since 1986, Jay has been the New York State Office of Fire Prevention and Control instructor, conducting evening courses in fire prevention and safety, including hazardous material response in accordance with the OSHA guidelines. Jay has personally taught in every fire department within Rensselaer County, which is a tribute to his ability and obviously respect that the departments have for him overall. Whereas Jay also conducted evening courses in fire safety from 1990 to 1999 with the New York State Association of Fire Chiefs, and was a consultant/trainer with NICOM and from 1995 to 2002. And whereas Jay also has received extensive training from the New York State Fire Academy, the National Fire Advisory, the New York State Association of Fire Chiefs, the New York State Department of State, Office of Fire Prevention and Control, and the Fire Instructor Training Program, where he is certified in over 17 categories. Where now, therefore, now here it is the dedication to the response of more felt or acted upon with more resolve than our firefighters who so fully emulate the ideas embraced in his fire service. Now, be it resolved that the Rensselaer County Legislature pause in its deliberations to acknowledge the outstanding efforts and nobility contributions of Jay Corcoran to the community and extend its best wishes to all the future endeavors, and to be it further resolved that the clerk of the legislature transmit a copy of this resolution suitably engrossed to James Corcoran. Again, I can't say enough of Jay's contributions, not only to the city of Rensselaer that I belong to, fire department I belong to, but throughout the county. And if there's one person who could unite the boundaries with fire protection as far as mutual aid would go, or get points across to all the companies and still have no ill will toward him, Jay was the guy. He was welcome wherever he went, and anybody who was at a class with him knew and understood that he was teaching from the heart and teaching from experience. With that, I have nothing more to say. Is there anybody here who would like to speak in Jay's behalf, say something for him? Come on.
Oh, I certainly
Always a pleasure, Terry.
I'm never at a loss for words. One thing that I can say is I've known Chief Corcoran for over 40 years, and he is without question above reproach. He is one of the best command officers I've ever known. He's certainly one of the best state fire instructors I've ever known. I've had the opportunity to work with Chief Corcoran as a state fire instructor and as a student, hard to believe. But I know I speak for the rest of the group here and the entire fire service and emergency services Rensselaer County in applauding his accomplishments, everything that Chief Corcoran has done, and everything he will do in his endeavors in the future. And with that being said, Chief, congratulations for a long and prestigious career.
Anyone else? With that, Jay, I wish that you accept this on behalf of the Rensselaer County Legislature for your years of experience and teaching that you provided us all in firematics here in Rensselaer County. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming down. It's a tribute to Jay. I just hope that we see Jay around the firehouse as much as we always did before. That's for sure. Don't go away, Jay. We'll still need your advice and assistance. Okay. That concludes the presentation portion of the evening. We will now conduct our public hearing. The legislator is called to order, and will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Bailey?
Here.
Mr. Bendette? Mr. Burns? Mr. Casal? Ms. Doran?
Present.
Mr. Fiacco?
Here.
Mr. Fleming?
Here.
Mr. Grant?
Present.
Mr. Grimm?
Here.
Mr. Harrington? Ms. Hoffman?
Here.
Mr. Loveridge?
Here.
Mr. Patiri?
Here.
Mr. Peter?
Here.
Mr. Testman?
Here.
Ms. Sullivan Tita?
Present.
Ms. Weaver?
Here.
Mr. Wysocki?
Here.
Chairman Stammel?
Here.
There are 16 present.
Good. Legislator Loveridge.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the legislature resolve itself into a committee of a whole for the purpose of conducting a public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Loveridge. Hearing no objections, I hereby appoint Legislator Dan Cassell, Chair of the Legislative Committee on Education, to conduct this public hearing. Chairman Cassell and your committee, any members of your committee, please come up to the podium.
Cindy?
Ready? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The clerk will read the notice of the public hearing and enter the affidavits of publication into the record.
Please take notice that in accordance with Section 6304, Subdivision 5A of the Education Law of the State of New York and Section 359 of the County Law of the State of New York, a public hearing will be held in the chambers of the Rensselaer County Legislature at the County Office Building, Troy, New York, on Tuesday, June 11, 2019, at 5:30 p.m. to review the tentative budget of Hudson Valley Community College for the fiscal year beginning September 1st, 2019, and ending August 31st, 2020. Copies of the tentative budget are on file in the office of the Clerk of the Legislature and available to the public during the office hours 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., Monday through Friday.
Public hearing to review the tentative budget of Hudson Valley Community College for the fiscal year beginning September 1st, 2019, ending August 31st, 2020, is now open. The rules of the chair are as follows. First, anyone wishing to speak at this public hearing must sign at the table at the entrance to the legislative chambers. When you are called upon to speak, please move quickly to the microphone and state your name, address for the record. Are there any questions? At this time, is there anyone wishing to speak on the proposed tentative budget of the Hudson Valley Community College for the fiscal year beginning September 1st, 2019, ending August 31st, 2020? Doctors Roger Ramsamy.
Moving quickly as I can. Hello, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Casal, Mr. Stammel, Education Committee, thank you very much, and to all of you sitting here. Hudson Valley is very proud of the fact that you have such great support for the college and the things that you stand by. We are the communities college because we serve so much of the communities in the capital region. The support given by the Rensselaer County is just one that we are very thankful for, the continuous support that comes to us. We do have a budget of about 98 million plus, and a nice increase to the college of 200,000 that was added on, and we're really, really, really thankful for that little support. As you all know, that currently the college is experiencing decreased enrollment, but it's not just the college. Nationwide, there's a decrease, and it's not so much because of anything, because of the economy, because of when employment is, the employment rate has decreased in terms of, good economy. At this particular point, we know that most community has, over 1,000 employees, over almost 11,000 students that come in, generating almost $200 million into the economy for Rensselaer. And in that way, we also know that we have about 1,919 students who graduate from the college, that, most of these students, at least quite a great deal of these students, come from Rensselaer County. And out of those students, most of them do decide to stay here and stay with the SUNY system and continue to generate revenue for us. So in many ways, Hudson Valley does have a major role to play within this capital region. As you know, that students from Albany side come down, over 3,000 students leave from on that side to come over to Hudson Valley to take classes. From Schenectady, which has their own community college, leaves and come down here to Hudson Valley to do that. And the same for Saratoga. So Hudson Valley provides a niche that very few colleges can boast of. I must say that when you consider the fact that Hudson Valley, unlike most other colleges where the enrollment decrease have been happening across the nation, has to do so many things in order for them to upkeep, that is in terms of closing programs, they have to decrease their staff. Hudson Valley is managing to hold on. You look at population decrease across this region. Let me just share with you, if you did not recognize this, that over 69 colleges in the Northeast region has indeed closed. And there are some of them programmed to close by 2023. So colleges are seeing themselves running into big trouble right now in terms of keeping the doors open. Hudson Valley, on the other hand, is managing to find new alternatives. We just introduced our faith-based leadership group, in which we brought in over 85 different of the faith-based leaders to work with us in the inner cities to help kids who dropped out of school, who are looking for an opportunity to come and join us through our EOC program that we were able to transition them with skills either onto the college or into the job market. So you see, the reach for us is far beyond most other colleges. We are tending to reach out into the communities and really support those kids, support business and industry to get the support that they need. Workforce-wise, Hudson Valley is working very much. Just introduced one new idea of creating home-based training for moms who indeed couldn't afford childcare. So instead, Hudson Valley came up with the idea, why don't we create employment for moms to work from home in the IT area or in different areas. So we're now focused on how to support that industry that, if you know, statewide is having a big difficulty in terms of providing child support for a lot of the parents. Just to add to all of this, it is important to know that Hudson Valley, not only through faith-based, we are designing new things to support our high schoolers by providing many of our summer programs to help these kids boost their math and English level so that they can stay in school and graduate when they come to us. Because as you know, the dropout rate is pretty high amongst all of the community colleges. Hudson Valley is finding new ways to make sure that the investment that you make in us are able to sustain it. But once again, let me just say thank you very much to all of you for the support that you continue to give us. We will continue to make you proud of Hudson Valley, and I'm sure that you can call on us anytime, and we will be there for you. We are working with the county on several different aspects of our dental program, supporting some of the community, the elderly groups by providing support for them, and we intend to do the same for other programs as we work closely with the county. So again, thank you very much. I do appreciate the opportunity to come in, and thank you all for the work that you do.
Thank you, Doctor.
All right.
Is there any else wishing to speak? Okay, I'm going to ask this question a couple more times here. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this proposal? Okay, we're here given the opportunity to speak on the proposal to review the tentative budget of Hudson Valley Community College for the fiscal year beginning December 1st, 2019 and ending August 31st, 2020. And no one else desires to speak. I declare the public hearing closed at 6:02 on the clock on the wall. And thank you for your participation, and thanks Hudson Valley for showing up, the crew.
Thank you, Legislator Casal and your committee for the resolutions before us tonight for public comment with Hudson Valley Community College. There is a few of them, and they are very important, especially the budget overall. With that being said, we have, let's see here, you read public notice, the end of public hearing. What else we got here? Okay, we're going to do the public forum now. Let me just go over some of the rules of the chambers for the public forum. No signs allowed in the chambers, no yelling, argument, or behavior. Please be respectful, obviously. If you fail to follow the rules, the result will be you will be asked to leave. Pursuant to legislative meetings, pursuant to Rule Number 9, no more than 3 persons shall be permitted to address the legislature on the same subject, and no person shall speak for more than 5 minutes or such subjects without the permission of the chairperson. Speakers must be signed in by 6 o'clock. There was a sign-up sheet up in front. I do have names on the sign-up sheet, and obviously we say 5 minutes. You know, we'll give or take one way or another a few minutes if you need to close out what you need to speak about. So therefore, you know, just be respectful of the people coming up behind you who may want to speak as well, so that you don't take up a lot of period of time. And there is quite the long agenda that we have to go through for the rest of the evening. With that being said, the first person signed up is David Ellis. Would David Ellis come down?
Good evening. My name is David Ellis. I live at 1129 First Street in the city of Rensselaer. I just wanted to thank you guys for allowing me to speak last week on the proposed solid waste moratorium. I'd like to give you guys a better understanding of the negative impacts other waste facilities have had on surrounding communities. It is important that we look at our past when planning for the future. For many years, St. Gobain had chemicals polluting water supplies, eventually leading to the PFOA crisis in Hoosick Falls. Earlier this year, investigations determined that chemicals were seeping out of the Dewey-Lowell landfill in Nassau. The site is now classified as an EPA Superfund site. More than 46,000 tons of hazardous industrial waste were dumped at the site in the 50s and 60s. From 1956 to 1971, NL Industries and Colony utilized depleted uranium for projects under contract with the Department of Defense. Residents believed that the facility was burning waste, and some of the materials may have been emitted in the air, leading to long-term health effects. Now, modern day, today, here we are. Last year, the City of Rensselaer Planning Board issued a negative declaration for a full environmental review of the proposed bio-high-tech facility. Members of the community feel that the decision did not take into consideration all of the potential impacts. Residents have been experiencing many of these same impacts from the Dunn landfill over the past several years. Hydrogen sulfide odors from Dunn have been a persistent issue of concern as well, and the residents feel like they are being sold out again for the city's financial gain. The same developer who seeks to construct the bio-high-tech facility in the city of Rensselaer pulled the plug on a similar facility in Orange County earlier this year. That speaks high volumes. Orange County officials earlier this year raised environmental concerns over air, water, and traffic issues. Residents have sought repeatedly to meet, urging you guys this evening as legislators here in Rensselaer County to accept the passing of the moratorium that will place a one-year ban on solid waste facilities, including bio-high-tech, from developing within 1 mile of the Hudson River here in Rensselaer County. This facility would be conducted on a toxic brownfield, so it is vital that this facility not be approved to operate within the city of Rensselaer. The type of facility would be developed on the old BASF site, which is a toxic brownfield that has been shut down for many years with toxic chemicals in the ground. The type of facility has not been tested in the United States, and the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation is concerned about this operation and have requested more information from the developer. The City of Rensselaer Planning Board did not properly take into consideration the environmental concerns that officials in Orange County presented. Disturbing this brownfield site and penetrating the cap to construct massive pits in the ground beneath the facility could lead to a horrific exposure of contaminants across the entire region. Think when you're digging a big hole in the ground and all the dust that's just blowing across the entire area. This is what this facility seeks to do with these massive pits in the ground. I would like to share a quote from Mayor Mooney, the mayor of the city of Rensselaer, that I find pretty funny. He released this quote the day before a scheduled press conference on this biotech project in the city. Mayor Mooney says, with quote, "With our partners in state government, Rensselaer residents' concerns are vigorously addressed, especially for the air we breathe. This is a city in the midst of a resurgence, and we're doing our part to make sure Rensselaer is bright, clean, and proud community for the next generation," end quote. Mr. Mooney should be ashamed of himself. He voted in favor of the Dunn landfill when the permit was approved for that facility to operate back in 2012. He was on the city council voting in approval of that facility that's had many negative impacts on our community for several years now. And Mr. Mooney now as mayor, after the former mayor, Mr. Daniel Dwyer, passed away, Mr. Mooney is the mayor of the city during the time period when the planning department here in Rensselaer voted in approval of this facility operating.
Start to wrap it up, Dave.
And that is all, and I thank you guys very much. I hope you guys consider all the impacts this facility would have in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just clarify, this moratorium is just a local law that's being laid on the desk of the legislators for right now. There will be no vote on it this evening, obviously, and it will be voted on next month, possibly. So therefore, it's just laying on the desk for review. With that, I also have been told that Mr. Tom West, would you like to say something, please? Sure. Come on down. Mr. West, I did receive your letter, and just in the best use of time, we've submitted that letter to the county clerk to be on file.
Thank you very much.
Yes. City clerk, yeah, the legislative clerk, I'm sorry, there we go.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Stammel, members of the legislature, for allowing me to speak tonight. I am speaking about the proposed local law to put the one-year moratorium. I've given you all a copy of what has been filed, so I'll do my best just to paraphrase it. I think there's a lot of misinformation about this facility in the public domain, and I'm here to correct it and answer any questions, and I'm sure we'll participate in this process further. First of all, this is a small project that will process about 150,000 tons of MSW each year. It's not allowed to take hazardous waste, industrial waste, railroad ties, tires, all the misinformation that's been in the media about that. The process uses a high efficiency process to take the MSW and turn it into a fuel that can be used as a substitute for coal, primarily in cement plants. And so this is a way to reduce carbon footprints of cement plants and also the carbon footprints of landfills, because instead of having the MSW in the landfills, it gets processed as a fuel and it gets used to offset coal emissions. So the other thing that's important to understand, the United States Environmental Protection Agency has indicated that this is extensive and that there should have been an environmental impact statement, but I can assure you, having been involved with that process, that it was in fact very extensive. Extensive studies were submitted to document that the impacts from this proposed project will be small and insignificant. It's going to be approximately 11 acres of disturbance on the BASF facility, and in order to support the project review, a traffic study was done by Creighton Manning, one of the most respected local traffic engineers. Noise analysis was done by an environmental engineer, and other analyses were done of coastal zone consistency, et cetera, to demonstrate that the impacts from this project would be small and insignificant. DEC has very stringent noise standards. This project will meet those noise standards or it will not be allowed to operate. I want to also talk about the impact of the BASF facility. In order to be able to do any construction on that site, BASF has on file what they call a site management plan, and you have to follow that to penetrate the cap and do any construction. This project will be constructed in full conformance with that particular plan. There'll be a health and safety plan in effect. There'll be air monitoring to make sure none of the harms that the prior speaker spoke about will occur. Let me just briefly go over the process. It started in March of 2018. There were several public hearings in April. On April 11th, the City Planning Commission declared itself to be the lead agency, gave notices to other potentially involved agencies, including Rensselaer County. Nobody wanted to be the lead agency, so ultimately they declared themselves as the lead agency. The city did not just rely upon the city engineer. They went out and hired Greenman Pedersen as an outside engineering consultant to make sure that everything was being done totally by the books. As a result of the back and forth process that occurred, ultimately the applicant was required to amend its application documents, and a series of documents were submitted in early August that led to resolutions being adopted by the city in late August and early September. Briefly, there was a negative declaration issued. The negative declaration was issued because the applicant demonstrated that the impacts from this facility would not be significant. The traffic impacts would be sustained by the local traffic network. They agreed that there should be no northbound traffic on the roadway that goes up into the residential neighborhood, and they agreed to enforce that. And so as a result of that, the Planning Commission felt there was no significant adverse impact. The other project that was proposed in Orange County was pulled not because they were required to do an environmental impact statement. It was pulled because it turned out that the site development issues were too costly to pursue that project. There's a lot of terrain, and they were evaluating that as they were going through the process, and so they felt that that was not economically productive. Let me just talk about the local law, and with all due respect, Chairman Stammel, unfortunately, we do not believe that this legislative body has the power or authority to impose a moratorium. First of all, as I described, we went through the process already. That process included correspondence to the County Planning Board about the lead agency status. The project was also reviewed to the County Planning Board pursuant to 239M of the General Municipal Law, and the Planning Board deferred to local approval, which is very common, but the county has already had its bite at this apple. More importantly, there's no basis for a moratorium. Our document outlines a little bit about the law about when you can enact moratoriums. Typically, it's done when a body is going to enact zoning and they don't want projects to get out in front of that zoning, so they put the brakes on. This legislative body does not have the power to enact zoning in the city of Rensselaer or in other municipalities. That's another issue that we've raised in our document, and I think this is probably the most important issue for you to understand. The New York State Constitution and the Municipal Home Rule Law makes it very clear that one legislative body, municipal body, cannot enact laws to interfere with another legislative body. If we had every time somebody fair share of problems as we stand here today. So we believe it's very clear that this body cannot do anything that would adversely affect this project, because you can't zone in the city of Rensselaer. The city of Rensselaer is allowed to make decisions about its own destiny. And as I said before, we already have all the approvals that we need. We don't need any more municipal approvals. Yes, we have to get DEC permits, and yes, that will be a rigorous process, and yes, the DEC will make sure that there are no adverse impacts from the facility. So while I recognize that tonight is not a public hearing on the project, I do urge you to very carefully consider whether to move forward or even introduce this law at this point. And I'm happy to answer any questions if that's appropriate.
No, that's not part.
Beyond that, thank you, and thank you for your consideration of our issues.
Thank you, Mr. West. It was much appreciated. Thank you. The clerk of the legislature had also informed me that Christine Kelb, is there Christine Kelb here who may want to speak? Christine. Yeah, Christine, come on down, please. Thank you, Christine.
Good evening, and thanks for letting me speak. My name is Christine Kielb, and I live in Menands, New York. I'm glad to be able to speak in support of the bill being introduced tonight, which places a moratorium on new solid waste facilities sited within 1 mile of the Hudson River in Rensselaer County. Although I don't live in Rensselaer, I am a frequent visitor, and so I am well acquainted with the many quality of life issues that the Dunn landfill is causing in the city, our current dump in the city. As a former environmental health scientist with the State Health Department, I am also acutely aware of the health problems that can be caused by problems with this landfill, including hydrogen sulfide odors, asbestos, and lead in landfill dust, and exposure to chronic noise and diesel particulate matter from landfill trucks. The previous speaker mentioned that DEC will make sure no adverse impacts will occur. This hasn't been the experience of the residents of Rensselaer with regard to the Dunn landfill. We have 100 trucks, tractor-trailer trucks a day coming through the city to and from the landfill, spewing diesel exhaust and causing loud noise. Neither of those issues were included in the permit or in the findings, that led to the permit. So we don't have a lot of faith that DEC is going to assure us that there are no negative impacts in another project. So I don't think that this mistake of the Dunn landfill should be repeated if at all possible. I also consider the Hudson River to be a valuable asset that affects all the people in the valley all the way down to New York City, and that river needs protection. Regarding biohigh-tech, there are a couple of troubling concerns which Dave already mentioned, which is a perceived lack of transparency both on the part of the Rensselaer City Planning Council and Biohigh-Tech. As Dave mentioned, Dennis Soriano failed to respond to repeated efforts to reach out to him to ask questions. Judith Enck, former EPA administrator for Region 2, and also I believe Mike Stammel or someone with the Rensselaer County Legislature, tried to contact Mr. Soriano repeatedly without success. There's lingering questions about this project that I don't think the public is satisfied have been answered adequately. This site is very close to the Hudson River. Back in 1980, this area was considered a 100-year floodplain. Those floodplain maps have not been updated to my knowledge, but we all know because of global warming and sea level rise that 100-year floodplains are turning into 1 or 2 year floodplains. And because this project involves digging down into
the ground, deep into the ground to form pits, where is the water table? The Hudson River has already been polluted by the BASF site. What further pollution could be in that site as they pierce the cap that could also continue to leach into the Hudson River, and also any kind of contaminants from this garbage operation. So in summary, I don't want to see a project of questionable environmental safety rushed through without transparency and without the opportunity for detailed study and community input.
Tonight. One more time, is there anybody else wishing to comment on any of the resolutions before us tonight? If not, then I declare this portion of the meeting over and move on to our regular agenda items. Thank you, everybody, for speaking and making us aware of your concerns. At this particular time, we'll call the meeting to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Here. Mr. Bendet? Mr. Burns? Mr. Casal? Ms. Dorn? Present. Mr. Fiacco? Here. Mr. Fleming? Here. Mr. Grant? Present. Mr. Grimm? Here. Mr. Harrington? Ms. Hoffman? Here. Mr. Leveridge? Here. Mr. Patiri? Here. Mr. Peter? Here. Mr. Tespin? Here. Ms. Sullivan-Tita? Present. Ms. Weaver? Present. Mr. Wysocki? Here. Chairman Stammel?
Here.
16 present, 3 absent.
Invocation, Legislator Grant, please.
Gracious Father, we ask you to give us the wisdom to always demonstrate kind thoughts and deeds. Teach us true hospitality, that we may be gracious and civil to all. Amen.
Amen. Pledge of Allegiance, Legislator Grimm.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we dispense with the reading of the minutes of the regular meeting of May 14, 2019, and approve the minutes as printed.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. So moved. Okay. Presentation of petitions.
On file.
Presentation of communications.
On file.
Reports of commissions.
On file.
Department reports.
On file.
Reports of standing committees.
On file.
Local laws.
There's one introductory tonight.
Okay, index of resolutions. P 22119.
P 22119, resolution commending the Junior League of Troy upon the occasion of its 90th anniversary, introduced by legislators Grimm, Doran, Burns, Fleming, Sullivan-Tita, Weaver, and the entire legislative body.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
16 ayes.
So moved. PP 222, resolution, or go ahead.
P 22219, resolution commending Officer Carlos Nazario upon receiving the 2019 John J. Givney Memorial Award, introduced by legislators Grimm, Doran, Burns, Fleming, Sullivan-Tita, Weaver, and the entire legislative body.
On the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
16 ayes.
So moved. P 22319.
G 22319, resolution authorizing extension of contracts with the New York State Board of Elections and amending the 2019 adopted Rensselaer County Budget Board of Elections, introduced by legislators Leveridge, Grant, Sullivan-Tita, Stammel, and Grimm.
On the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
16 ayes.
So moved. Okay. P 22419.
G 22419, resolution accepting an allocation of funds from the New York State Office of Temporary and Disability Assistance, entering into a contract with CARES of New York, Inc., and amending the 2019 Rensselaer County adopted budget, Department of Social Services, introduced by legislators Grant, Tessman, Sullivan-Tita.
On the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
16 ayes.
So moved. G 22519.
G 22519, resolution authorizing adjustments to the payments of additional rent to landlord pursuant to lease, Departments of Social Services, Probation, and Youth, introduced by legislators Grant, Tessman, and Sullivan-Tita.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
16 ayes.
So moved. G 22619.
G 22619, resolution authorizing the purchase of public transportation services, employment, and training, introduced by legislators Wysocki, Patiri, and Burns.
On the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
16 ayes.
So moved. G, 22719.
G 22719, resolution authorizing an increase in the purchase price of a 2020 passenger van Unified Family Services Aging, introduced by legislators Bailey, Peter, and Fleming.
On the question? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
16 ayes.
So moved. G, 22819.
G 22819, resolution authorizing the purchase of 2 law enforcement patrol vehicles, Sheriff's Office, introduced by legislators Tessman, Grant, and Weaver.
On the question?
Subject to secret review, Bureau of Finance, introduced by legislators Casal, Bedet, and Doran.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
16 ayes.
G, 23019.
Resolution for classifying action to undertake a certain project as a type 2 action not subject to secret review, Bureau of Finance, introduced by legislators Casal, Bedet, and Doran.
On the question? In favor? Aye. Opposed?
16 ayes.
So moved. G, 23119.
G 23119, resolution for classifying action to undertake a certain project as an unlisted action that will not have a significant impact on the environment, Bureau of Finance, introduced by legislators Casal, Bedet, and Doran.
On the question? All those in favor? Aye. So moved.
16 ayes.
G, 23219.
G 23219, bond resolution of the County of Rensselaer, New York, authorizing the issuance of $100,000 serial bond to finance 50% of the cost of certain capital projects, overflow parking lot, to be undertaken by Hudson Valley Community College Bureau of Finance, introduced by legislators Casal, Bedet, and Doran. This is a roll call vote.
Roll, please call the roll.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bedet? Mr. Burns is absent. Mr. Casal?
Yes.
Ms. Doran? Aye. Mr. Fiacco?
Aye.
Mr. Fleming?
Aye.
Mr. Grant?
Aye.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Ms. Hoffman?
Aye.
Mr. Leveridge?
Yes.
Mr. Patieri?
Yes.
Mr. Peter?
Yes.
Mr. Tessman?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Tita?
Aye.
Ms. Weaver?
Aye.
Mr. Wysocki? Chairman Stammel?
Aye.
16 ayes.
So moved. G, 23419.
G 23319, bond
233, I'm
resolution
sorry.
of the County of Rensselaer, New York, authorizing the issuance of $655,000 serial bonds to finance 50% of the cost of the repairs and renovations of the Gunther Enrollment Center Services Center to be undertaken by Hudson Valley Community College, introduced by legislators Casal, Bedet, and Doran. Again, this is a roll call vote.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Casal?
Yes.
Ms. Doran?
Aye.
Mr. Fiacco?
Aye.
Mr. Fleming?
Aye.
Mr. Grant?
Aye.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Ms. Hoffman?
Aye.
Mr. Leveridge?
Yes.
Mr. Patieri? Mr. Peter?
Yes.
Mr. Tessman?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Tita?
Aye.
Ms. Weaver?
Aye.
Mr. Wysocki?
Yes.
Chairman Stammel?
Aye.
16 ayes.
So moved. G, 23419.
G 23419, bond resolution of the County of Rensselaer, New York, authorizing the issuance of $115,000 in serial bonds to finance 50% of the cost of the development and preparation of a facility master plan to be undertaken by Hudson Valley Community College, introduced by legislators Casal, Bedet, and Doran. Again, this is a roll call vote. Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Casal?
Yes.
Ms. Doran?
Aye.
Mr. Fiacco?
Aye.
Mr. Fleming?
Aye.
Mr. Grant?
Aye.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Ms. Hoffman?
Aye.
Mr. Leveridge?
Yes.
Mr. Patieri?
Yes.
Mr. Peter?
Yes.
Mr. Tessman?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Tita?
Aye.
Ms. Weaver?
Aye.
Mr. Wysocki?
Yes.
Chairman Stammel?
Aye.
16 ayes.
So moved. G, 23519.
G 23519, resolution amending the 2019 Rensselaer County adopted budget, general and county road funds, introduced by legislators Harrington, Bailey, and Fleming.
On the question. Those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
16 ayes.
So moved. G, 23619.
G 23619, resolution authorizing an agreement with Hudson Valley Community College Department of Social Services, introduced by legislators Grant, Tessman, Sullivan, Tita.
On the question? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
15 ayes, 1 abstention, Mr. Grant.
So moved. G 23719.
G 23719, resolution authorizing the purchase of emergency communications equipment, Bureau of Public Safety, introduced by legislators Testman, Grant, and Weaver.
On the question? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
16 ayes.
Okay. Opposed? None? All in favor? Yeah, we already went through it, never mind. 238.
G 23819, resolution authorizing a lease agreement with the Spiegeltown Fire Department, Bureau of Public Safety, introduced by legislators Testman, Grant, and Weaver.
On the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
16 ayes.
So moved. G 23919.
G 23919, resolution authorizing the purchase of an emergency management vehicle, resolution authorizing the purchase of emergency communications equipment, Bureau of Public Safety, introduced by legislators Testman, Grant, and Weaver.
On the question? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
16 ayes.
So moved. G 24119.
G 24119, resolution authorizing a contract for the purchase of copy, printing paper, and supplies, Category A, commonly used paper for county-wide departments, Bureau of Central Services, introduced by legislators Leverage, Grant, Sullivan, Tita, Stammel, and Grimm.
On the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
16 ayes.
So moved. G 24219.
G 24219, resolution authorizing a contract for the purchase of copy paper, copy, printing paper, and supplies, Category B, specialty paper and supplies for countywide departments, Bureau of Central Services, introduced by legislators Leverage, Grant, Sullivan, Tita, Stammel, and Grimm.
On the question? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
16 ayes.
So moved. G 24319.
G 24319, resolution authorizing a contract to update the 2011 wastewater treatment plant process and hydraulic capacity report, Sewer District Number 1, introduced by legislators Leverage, Grant, Sullivan, Tita, Harrington, Bailey, and Fleming.
On the question? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
16 ayes.
So moved. G 24419.
G 24419, resolution authorizing the waste compactor removal and reinstall at the 345 First Street Pump Station, Sewer District Number 1, introduced by legislators Harrington, Bailey, and Fleming.
On the question? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
16 ayes.
So moved. G 24519.
G 24519, resolution authorizing change orders for the construction of the grit collection and treatment project and amending the 2019 Rensselaer County adopted budget, Sewer District Number 1, introduced by legislators Harrington, Bailey, and Fleming.
On the question? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
16 ayes.
So moved. G 24619.
G 24619, resolution authorizing the installation of a plant-wide security system, Sewer District Number 1, introduced by legislators Harrington, Bailey, and Fleming.
On the question? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
16 ayes.
So moved. G 24719.
G 24719, resolution authorizing agreements for substance abuse prevention in various school districts, Department of Mental Health, introduced by legislators Grant, Testman, Sullivan, Tita.
On the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
15 ayes, 1 abstention, Mrs. Sullivan, Tita.
Okay. G 24819.
G 24819, resolution amending the 2019 adopted Rensselaer County Budget Highway Department, introduced by legislators Harrington, Bailey, and Fleming.
On the question? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
16 ayes.
So moved. G 24919.
G 24919, resolution amending the 2019 Rensselaer County adopted budget, District Attorney, and Office of the Sheriff, introduced by legislators Testman, Grant, and Weaver.
On the question? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
16 ayes.
So moved. G 25019.
G 25019, resolution authorizing a contract with the Troy Rehabilitation and Improvement Program, Inc., TRIP, Department of Health, introduced by legislators Leverage, Grant, Sullivan, Tita, Bendet, Casal, and Doran.
On the question? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
16 ayes.
So moved. G 25119.
G 25119, resolution authorizing an agreement with the Skettacook Fair and amending the 2019 Rensselaer County adopted budget, community programs grants, introduced by legislators Leverage, Grant, Sullivan, Tita, Stammel, and Grimm.
On the question? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
16 ayes.
So moved. G 25219.
G 25219, resolution amending the 2019 adopted Rensselaer County budget, Department of Health, introduced by legislators Bendet, Casal, and Doran.
On the question? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
16 ayes.
So moved. G 25319.
G 25319, resolution accepting grant funding from the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services for alternative to incarceration programs, Department of Probation and Sheriff's Department, introduced by legislators Tessman, Grant, and Weaver.
On the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
16 ayes.
So moved. G 25419.
G 25419, resolution adopting a budget for Hudson Valley Community College for the period of September 1st, 2019 through August 31st, 2020, introduced by legislators Casal, Bendet, and Doran.
On the question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
15 ayes, 1 abstention, Mr. Grant.
So moved. G 25519.
G 25519, resolution approving contract award for Hudson Valley Community College capital project overflow parking, paving, and striping, introduced by legislators Loveridge, Grant, Sullivan, Tita, Casal, Bendet, and Doran.
On the question.
Community College capital project overflow parking lot, lighting and wiring, introduced by legislators Loveridge, Grant, Sullivan, Tita, Casal, Bendet, and Doran.
On the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
15 ayes, 1 abstention, Mr. Grant.
So moved. G 25719.
G 25719, resolution to establish a standard workday and reporting for Rensselaer County, introduced by Chairman Stammel.
On the question.